Okay, so we're going to stay on the topic of public services. So the next question is about quality public services. So Canadians rely on public services, especially during difficult economic times. Public services build communities and contribute to household stability. Middle-income Canadian families enjoy public services worth about $41,000 or 63% of their income. Cutting taxes erodes public services and actually takes money out of people's pockets. All Canadians benefit from quality public services on a daily basis. So the question is, what will you do to protect and promote public services, and how will you assure your party's commitment to protecting and strengthening public services? So first we have Derek Wells.
It's a little bit of repetition with respect to how we protect the public service. We make a commitment to them. We sit down with them. We sit down with their unions. We sit down with their management, and we say to them, we appreciate what you do for this country. We appreciate that you're making a commitment to public service. We have to respect them. We have to listen to them. We cannot be treating them the way this present government is treating our public servants. They are running our institutions. These are professionals. So I think it goes back to the issue of respect. If you respect your public servants, if you in your own jobs, if you're running a small business, or if you're running a big business, you have to respect your employees. That's what makes it run. That's what makes it tick. And you have to respect those people. You get good employees, you advertise, and then you interview trying to get good employees. And then if you don't treat them well, they're going to leave and go somewhere else. We can't do that to any of our employees. You don't do it in private business, you can't do it in the public service. It has not been the tradition of the public service, but unfortunately that's the way it's become. So I think it boils down to respect. They're professionals, let's treat them like professionals, and let's respect them. Thank you.
Next we have Kris MacLellan.
Yes, when I think of the public service, I think of hardworking Canadians who go to work every day and should feel respected in the job that they do. They work hard for their pensions. They work hard to provide us with the standard of living that we receive every day. When we go to the post office, when we call in for a student loan appointment, these are people who are Canada. The public servants, they are what I think of as Canada. Without them, we would have a void. There would be a vacuum that would not represent what I think of as Canada. When we allow private sectors to run amok, we end up with disastrous programs and projects like the tar sands in Alberta. We need more dynamic, appealing programs to bring in more of Canada's best and brightest into the public sector, and to see that their work is valued and that we as a population thank them for their hard work. Thank you.
Okay, and lastly we have Gordon Earle.
Well, the New Democrats have a specific plan to strengthen the public service. And first of all, we would start with ending partisan meddling in professional public service by establishing a code of conduct for ministerial staff, capping partisan appointments of special advisors, and establishing a merit-based public appointments system. Respect has been mentioned. We would respect the public service employees by improving legislative protection for whistleblowers and strengthening oversight of the Integrity Commissioner. We would create real public service jobs instead of relying on temporary help services. Modernize hiring mechanisms in consultation with employee unions and managers. And when we talk about establishing a code of conduct for ministerial staff, Canada should adopt a code of conduct for ministerial staff similar to what's been established in the UK and Australia, which sets out clear standards of behavior. This code should address such issues as staff suppression of advice to ministers, the appropriate boundary between partisan and government communications, and the frustration of legislatively mandated activities by public servants. Cut back on partisan patronage in the public service, eliminate the legislative provision allowing the appointment of unlimited numbers of special advisors, and establish merit-based appointments. That's very important, to ensure that all governor and council appointments to senior public service positions, agencies, and boards are based entirely on merit. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're on to our last question before we get to your questions, and this one might be a popular one. It's entitled "The Harper Government and Its Abuse of Democracy." So, the Harper Conservatives have treated everyone who stands in their way with contempt, not just Parliament. The government's refusal to come clean with Canadians on the real costs of their crime bills should be the final straw. The Harper Conservatives claimed they would bring accountability, transparency, and ethical behavior to government. In 5 years, they've done exactly the opposite. They've shown a disdain for elected representatives and frustrated the work of Parliament. 2 Tory staffers, including Harper's former acting chief of staff, are being investigated by the RCMP for legal lobbying. 4 Tory insiders, including 2 senators, are accused of breaking Canada's election laws and can face jail time. Bev Oda, Harper's Minister of International Cooperation, lied in Parliament about defunding Kairos. These are just the most recent examples of Harper's contempt for democracy. Harper is not above the law, and he must be held to account. So, now the question. What will you and your party do to guarantee that government is working transparently, democratically, and in the interests of Canadians? So first, we will have Gordon Earle.
Well, thank you. This is a very, very important issue. When I was a member of Parliament from 1997 to 2000, one of the first things I did was to introduce a private member's bill on code of ethics for parliamentarians. And it seemed the parliamentarians of that day didn't seem to feel that they needed such a code. They didn't even allow the bill to become votable. So the best that happened was that the bill was debated, and I had my say in Parliament, and that was it. But you notice years afterwards, Mr. Harper introduced an Accountability Act. And yet every action that he and his government have performed since then have been far from accountable, transparent, and open. So it takes more than legislation to ensure accountability. It takes a will on the part of the individuals who are working on your behalf. And they must have truth, honesty, and integrity as a part of their makeup in order to make Parliament work. But we would like to set a new tone for Parliament. We would foster a new, more cooperative approach in Parliament. Stephen Harper refuses to work constructively with other political parties in the House of Commons, preferring confrontation. New Democrats are committed to making Parliament work better. If the mandate we receive justifies it, we will work with other federalist parties through informal and appropriate, stable arrangements to make Parliament work. We would also restrict the Prime Minister's power to avoid Parliament. We would introduce a Parliament Act that will prevent the Prime Minister from requesting prorogation of Parliament when a confidence vote is before the House of Commons, and will require a parliamentary vote before the Prime Minister can seek a lengthy prorogation at other times. So this is very important, and we'd also... And my red card is up, so I'll finish. Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have Derek Wells.
Thank you. That was quite a loaded preamble. Can I get a copy of that? But you know, the sad part of it is all true. And that's what this election is about. It's about the contempt for democracy. It's about the contempt for Parliament. And I think we expect more of our leaders. We expect our leaders to respect democracy. And I think that's why we're all in this room tonight. And I think we sincerely believe that. We have laid out a 3-point plan, and I hope I have time to get it through before my time is up. but I'll just sort of go through the platform, and I encourage you to go see our platform because we have a section on society and democracy, which I think is very telling about where we come from. We'd create an open government, proactively posting information online about government spending, making databases accessible and searchable, and putting all access to information requests and responses online. And we would also restore the mandatory long-form census. We will cooperate with all parties to make Parliament work better. Among other measures, we will strengthen the role of standing committees and propose reforms to question period to make it more substantive and less partisan. And we'll also place limits on the Prime Minister's power to shut down Parliament. We'll institute a people's question period, with the Prime Minister and Cabinet Ministers going online to answer questions from Canadians, unfiltered and unscripted. And you won't be excluded. We won't be looking at your Facebook page to see if you got your picture taken by Stephen Harper to exclude you from that. And we'll also, and I think this is important, develop an internet voting option for federal elections to encourage more people to vote. If we could get 65% of the people to vote, Stephen Harper wouldn't be the Prime Minister. You know that.
Okay, and finally we have Kris MacLellan.
The government of Stephen Harper has been one of the most secretive and dishonest governments in recent Canadian memory. We saw a group of students today who, many of them, have grown up not even really knowing that Canadian governments could be honest and open, and that probably wouldn't go so far as to travel the world and brag about where they're from, and to tell people of how proud they are of the work that their government does on the world stage. Canada's reputation has been sullied by the Conservative Party. On a binge to clean up of what they saw as liberal corruption, they've gone on a binge of broken promises regarding accountability and transparency. They have established a dangerous precedent of muzzling public servants whose only crime was speaking truth to power, the singular right and responsibility of all public servants, and one that must not be silenced. Green Party members of Parliament will amend the Accountability Act to ensure that all those who monitor government selected at arm's length are selected at arm's length from those they monitor, and eliminate the blanket exemptions on public release of government documents, and to guarantee transparency and openness for all government activities. Canada was once a leader on the world stage in freedom of information, and we now lag behind. The Green Party will work to update Access to Information Act to permit greater transparency of government activities. The Green Party will institute mandatory training in ethics for members of Parliament and their staffers, requiring all MPs and staff to take in-house training on the basics of good management and sound ethics in Parliament. We will strengthen the mandates of independent officers of Parliament, including the Auditor General and the Information Commissioner. We will replace the current Ethics Commissioner, who reports privately to the Prime Minister, and with an Independence Ethics Commission who reports to Parliament and is appointed through a merit-based process with strong powers to investigate government officials and lobbyists.